Well, it's that time again for the number one sports show on Catholic Radio. You're tuned in to Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network. We are broadcasting on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network across the Carolina Catholic Radio app and the Carolina Catholic Radio Network website, carolinacatholicradio.org. We're also broadcasting across Radio Maria, so welcome to all of our Radio Maria listeners. I'm Chris, the producer of the show, and as always, the host of Faith and Sport, the one, the only, Dr. John Acquaviva. Make him welcome, everybody.
Thank you, folks, for joining us today. However, wherever and whenever you are joining us, this is Faith and Sport. This is where we apply our faith to all aspects of sport. Here's what we're going to do today. We're going to do our hit and miss in the world of sport. We're going to discuss all things youth sports with this. Chris, will you quiet those fans down? They're really raucous today.
Yeah, they're so excited because we're back in the studio.
We are back in the studio. But you know what? When people are listening, they have no idea if we're back in the studio. If they're listening to our show each week, it seems like we're back in the studio every day. We're on every day on Carolina Catholic Radio.
That's right. They're able to relive some of their favorite moments of Faith and Sport.
Absolutely. Did you say anything about Radio Maria, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Okay, you did. Thank you for doing that. Folks,
I can't believe you missed that.
I know, sorry, but I was concentrating on what I was going to talk about. Listen, we're going to do we're going to discuss all things youth sports with a special in-studio guest. I'll introduce him in a minute. We're going to do weekend headlines, and Chris is going to shoot me at least one question with the quick Q&A with Dr. A. Now, before we get to our special in-studio guest and I introduce him, Chris, it's been actually a couple months since we've done this show.
Yes, it has been.
How have you been, brother?
I've been great. Watching a lot of Atlanta Braves baseball. They've been doing very well.
They're doing decent.
Yes.
But you must have been happy that the Nats got rid of Scherzer and Trey Turner, and half of the National League is on a different team at this point, but maybe that's an advantage for Atlanta.
Yeah.
We'll see, but I want to say Phillies are top of that division now.
Yeah, and actually the Braves just got done with a series against the Nationals and won 2 games out of 3.
There you go, brother.
Sorry, Carlos.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. The Olympics has been on for the last couple weeks. Have you watched any of that?
Not really, because I was kind of disappointed in the way a lot of the athletes wanted to disrespect our flag and the national anthem. I mean, they're in the Olympics, they're on the other side of the world, supposed to be representing the United States, and they want to go over there disrespecting and protesting the United States. I mean,
and it turns you off, and I imagine it turned off a lot of people from viewing it. And I think I watched less of it. I actually have watched a decent amount, but I think I've watched less, and I don't watch it with the enthusiasm or with the energy that I normally watch it because of that. It's just a shame. This is
right, and
gosh, the year of I don't know, the year of change and the year of protest and the year of rage and so forth, but our society is not for the better, brother.
Right, and one of the things I really didn't understand is during the track events, they had men and women, racing against each other. I mean, that was just...
I heard that. Was that some... Come
weird.
On. You know what I thought? When I saw that on the internet, I thought it was something like that somebody superimposed them on there. You know how they can kind of do that? That was real?
That was real, yeah.
But it... What was it for? Some type of exhibition of some sort?
Well, no, it was one of the relay races.
No, that's not true.
Yes, that was true. They had men and women racing against each other, and it was just really unfair. I mean, the women...
they lost by like 40 steps, I think the women did to the men.
Yeah, I mean, watching the race, I mean, it was just unreal how the men would just leave the women behind going around the track, and then the women, they'd pass the baton off to the women, and the women, would take off, but then they'd come back around, and then... the men would just smoke them once they got
of course.
I mean, it was just an unfair
I thought the
race.
whole thing was a farce. I got to look this. I got to look more of this up, brother. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I have this show, and we're talking about the Olympics, and I'm not really sure what I'm talking about. I thought the whole thing was a farce. I thought there was like some type of superimposed, some exhibition but it was part of the Olympic Games, as far as you know.
Yes,
that's crazy.
That was real. I just couldn't believe it.
Well, Chris, good to see you again, brother. I'm glad we're back on the air.
Me too. Good to be back in the studio.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, folks, you're listening to Faith and Sport here on Carolina Catholic Radio. It's a co-production of Radio Maria. I want to thank all of our listeners for joining us today. Listen, if there is a question you have, if there's a comment you have, or if you have a suggestion for a guest, you can contact me a couple ways. I have a Twitter account. Unbelievable. You can tweet me at j.acquaviva1. That's the number 1. Again, that's j.acquaviva1, the number 1. Or at john@faithandsportradio.com. So let's do this. I'm going to do our hit and miss in a minute, but first I want to introduce our guest. His name is Dave Acquaviva.
Wow, same last name as yours.
I know, what a coincidence. I am one of 7 kids, and Dave Acquaviva is my next oldest brother. He's visiting us from the Detroit area, and he has had so much experience in mainly a parent of a athlete that's played several sports. I think he's got really good insight. He's got really good stories, and he has joined us, and I asked him to come on air, so he's in studio with us today. Brother, thank you for joining us today.
Great to be here.
Hey, and the crowd, the crowd loves Dave.
I have not seen 1 second of the Olympics. I just want everybody to know it.
Okay.
Not 1 second. Personal protest.
But in normal years, Dave, you would have watched it?
Absolutely. Love
Okay.
the Winter Olympics especially.
All right, so for what I understand from our conversations about sport and everything,
Yes.
Last year I watched not 1 minute of the NFL. I mentioned this on the show. Have you watched any of the NFL in the last
Nothing.
year?
Didn't even know they were playing.
I know you don't like basketball and you don't watch any NBA basketball.
No, never.
Hockey, did you watch hockey?
Not 1 minute of it.
Honestly?
Didn't even
Okay.
know that they were playing.
Did you know who won the Stanley Cup?
Not a clue.
It was the Detroit Red Wings.
It was? Well, there you go. See, I didn't know that.
So you watched
That's what
no
all the
hockey
noise
this
was.
year?
None. Not
And
once.
then, but baseball.
Some baseball, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. And then so you've watched, it's safe to say you've watched less sports this past year than any other year since you've been an adult, probably.
Down 90%.
Unbelievable.
90%, yeah.
Yeah, I've watched certainly less, and I'm like Chris, I'm like you. A lot of it has to do with the fact that it's been politicized. It's been there's been negative comments made about it or during it, and some type of protest. And I think some people don't get it. I don't mind. I think we're a country of protest. I think we're a country of you can make your stance known if you disagree with something. It just doesn't belong in the world of sport. And I think owners are really struggling because they want to give their athletes a voice, but they know at the exact same time it's hurting their bottom line.
It is, because when you sit back on a Sunday afternoon with your favorite beverage and just you want to relax and wash the week away and just take your time to have some alone time or some dad time and just watch some sports, you don't want to be reminded of everything that's going on in the world and all how bad people we are and everything else. You just want to watch a game. You just want to sit down and watch a game, and you don't really need to be reminded of it. So hopefully it's going to get back to that, at least to some point.
Yeah, Carlos and I talk about this regularly. Chris, we mentioned this on the air numerous times, either with Carlos or just you and I chatting. This is a true diversion from what's going on in our culture, in our world. And then when they bring it into the culture, into the world of sport,
It's
you're
no
like,
longer a diversion.
Uncle.
Yeah, stop.
Yeah, it's something that I think they really do get. I really mean this. I think the owners get it, and they see their bottom line getting hurt, but they can't help themselves. And I think ultimately they fear that it's going to hurt them even more if they kind of shut the mouths of those athletes.
It's possible, but I don't think that's going to happen, because how much worse can it get? I mean, if the ratings are down 70, 80% in the NBA, is it going to go down to 90%? No,
right.
It's actually going to go back up if they just cut out some of that stuff. So I don't.
So, listen, here's what we're going to do. You and I are going to have a conversation for most of this hour about youth sport and parenting and so forth. I think we got some really good topics to cover. We're going to do the miss every week. If, Dave, you don't know this, every week Carlos and I, or whoever the guest is, Ed and I, we do a hit or miss in the world of sport.
Okay.
Like something that was positive or negative that was particular to that week. And I'll do that in a minute, but I'm going to do something I did not mention. We practiced, we talked about the topics here, but there's one thing I did not mention to you that we're going to do.
All right.
And it's name the movie. I'm going to give a quote.
Okay.
And you have to.
Is Johnny Horton in it?
He is not. I know. I could give Chris these as well. I know people are like, Johnny Horton? But I have a feeling a lot of our listeners here on Carolina Catholic Radio and Radio Maria would know who Johnny Horton is.
Well,
Wouldn't you think?
I would hope so, yeah.
But the thing is like Chris is a Renaissance man. He knows this stuff. And I think a lot of Chris, how old are you?
43.
Okay, you're 43.
All right.
To Dave and I,
Yes.
you're young.
Young.
Right?
Yeah.
Certainly much younger than both of us. But I think a lot of people that are in their 40s, they don't know who Johnny Horton
Not a clue.
is.
No.
No.
And you know what? Here's the question, though. Is their life any worse or better for not knowing who Johnny All right, Dave, ready?
All right, let's hear it.
I could do the accent, but I'm not going
Okay,
to.
all right.
So there's an old man in the closet. And the next guy responds with, he's right, you know. There's an old man in the closet. He's right, you know.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't
Okay,
know.
I'll give you a hint.
All
It
right.
involves our favorite band. There's an old man.
Oh, yeah, I think that was Hard Day's Night. Yeah, it was Hard Day's Night with
They
his
put
dad.
the butler in the closet. And George, Ringo goes over there. He opens up the closet and he closes it right back. And he goes, "There's an old man in the closet." And George walks over there and he goes, "He's right, you know."
Okay.
Yeah, one of my favorite lines in the movie was when George, or no, not George, but John passes this woman, and this woman looks at him out of her glasses. "No, you're
It's
not
not
him
you."
at all."
Yeah, that's right. He goes, "No,
and John's
I'm not."
like, "No, I'm not.
Yeah.
And you don't look like him at all."
That's right. That's right. And he goes, "I know," and it's him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good. See, he's a
He's got-
Renaissance.
yeah.
And then he
Very
says,
good.
"She looks like more like him than I do."
That's right. He says that. Have you seen this movie recently,
Yeah.
Chris? Did you?
So did
saw
you
it
know
last
the
week or
answer?
something?
Yeah.
Did you know the answer to that? By the
No,
way?
I didn't
Man in
know
the
that
Closet?
one.
No.
No.
Okay. All right.
Dave, so if we have time, Dave will do imitations of all four Beatles, but I'm not
Absolutely.
sure we're going to have
Yeah.
time for
No, we
that.
don't have time for
So,
that.
Dave, listen, before we get into our questions and
Okay.
our conversations and so forth, every week we do the hit and miss. So here's mine. It has to do with the Olympics. The International Olympic Committee earns a miss this week because of this. Offering competitions that many, perhaps most other countries have not heard of and don't have an opportunity to participate in them. One of the reasons that the United States has over 100 medals and the next closest team is about 30 behind. And then if you're a country that we haven't heard of, or there's not many people there, there's no way they have access to some of these competitions. Like, for instance, sport climbing. Do you guys know what sport climbing
Never
is?
heard of it. No.
Chris, sport climbing.
I know, climbing a rock wall.
It is. Very good. It's rock climbing. Dave, you've seen these things, right?
Yeah.
And they do this. I'm like, come on, you're offering a gold medal and
In that.
people can't afford, like, people are like, what are you talking about? You can climb a mountain in somebody's, like, indoor gym, right? The other one is skateboarding, right? You've seen this. There's, these guys driving around these. There's no way that is a true international sport.
No.
There's got to be like 8 countries that even have skateboards.
Well, there's another one I was reading the other day that the Olympics decided to do away with sport walking.
Oh,
I
is
was
that
like-
true?
Sport
Like,
walking.
Yeah, I was like,
You mean fast walking, right? Or just they walk as fast as they
Yeah.
can, and then whoever wins. I know it's pretty
yeah.
silly. Though,
I didn't even know that was an event in the Olympics. I mean,
To tell the truth, it's been for decades.
yeah,
right.
Wow.
I didn't realize that, but they said they're getting rid of that sport now.
The Olympics will be for the better. Maybe when they stop doing that, Dave will start watching.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that they had to wear earbuds and listen to Johnny Horton while they were doing the speed walking. So I think that
Yeah, like speed walk to the Battle of New Orleans.
That's right.
The drum cadence. Yeah.
So here's the other one: surfing. Like, think about so virtually every country, for example, in Africa is allowed to participate. How on earth, if you live in Namibia, which is in the center of Africa, are you going to get to a coast to learn how to surf?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I think we should just all challenge them all in football too while we're at it.
Yeah.
Why not? You know?
That's right. That would be a bad idea. Have American football
Yeah.
for the 98th straight Olympics. United States of America wins the gold medal. And you know how they're on the podium and they do the flags on the other two podiums. There won't be anybody
Yeah.
because they either died or they're like, we can't. How do we compete against a country that has had this sport for decades? So that's my miss is the
I agree with
international. Yeah, they offered
with
all these sports, and no wonder why. In fact, I'm going to talk later in our weekend headlines. See what I mean by Dave?
Yes,
by
I
time
do.
flying by. We
I
haven't
do.
done it.
Yes, we haven't done anything yet. You haven't asked me one question. Should I leave or?
Sit right there, brother. No, let's get into this. Okay, so here we go with the questions to Dave Acquaviva, my special in studio guest here on Faith and Sport. And before we get into the conversation. Okay, this is all about your son, Levi.
Yes.
He's your only boy. He's your only child.
Yes.
He's 12 years old.
Yes.
He's very active. He's been involved in a lot of sports.
Yes.
Tell everybody how many sports he's been involved in.
He played hockey for a while. He did soccer for 2 seasons, baseball since he was 3, and he's now currently enrolled in playing football, 12U football too. So.
And the most experience you have both as a coach and as a parent of an athlete is baseball. He's played, I think we said off air, around 7 seasons
7
total.
or 8 seasons total now, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, if you had to guess, about how many games would that be? Say
Hundreds.
50. Okay, hundreds.
Yeah, because he was saying that he played 7 or 8 seasons. He played 7 or 8 years. There's a lot of different seasons. There's spring ball, there's little league, there's tournament play, and then there's fall ball. So hundreds and hundreds of games. Hundreds.
Got it.
Yeah.
So
couldn't even count them.
No, you're perfect. That's one of the reasons I had you
Yeah.
come to the show, because you can give as much insight and share your experience as much as anybody.
Yes.
So let's talk about, I think, what is a pretty common question in this area. Is sport better You and I played youth sport
Yes, we
and
did.
high school
Yeah.
in the 70s and the 80s, long time ago. Chris, do you know there was electricity in the 1970s? I know it's amazing.
Yeah.
You were something before electricity.
We had
What's the
telephones
movie?
too. I know that one's
And
Caddyshack,
TV too?
of course. Yeah, we did have one TV.
Oh, okay.
One TV, yeah,
Yeah.
of
I
course.
thought maybe it was all radio.
And you know,
No, I mean, our brothers all fought on whose turn it was to change the channel. It's your turn. I just changed it. No, it's your turn. Yeah.
But Chris,
True,
you
true
probably never
story.
thought of this. The reason that obesity was less in the 70s and the 50s and 60s and so forth is because you had to get up and
Get up,
walk
turn
to the
it. Yeah.
TV and turn it manually,
We
right?
used to fight over it.
Mm-hmm.
It's your turn to change the channel. It's not mine.
All right. What is better about sport today than, say, when we were, little young guys running around the field?
Well, I think everybody looks at their generation and says this is just so much better than before, or
Yeah.
the older generation says this is terrible compared to my day. So
right.
you really have no point of reference because I didn't play youth sports in the 30s. I didn't
That's
play
right.
it in the turn of the century.
played when you played,
Played
yeah.
when you played. It's the only point of reference you have. I think mainly the main thing is kids' participation in sports now. There's just not as many of them participate, which is a shame because a lot of them are just too busy in doing indoor stuff, PS4s and things like that. So I think child participation is the main thing.
So that would be a negative of it.
I would think so. Yeah.
Got it. What other negatives about youth sport? Like, for instance, is it too personalized with baseball cards, right? Like Levi has a
He
card.
does. He does have a card. Yeah.
And names on the back. How often is his name on the back? And
Every
time.
team.
Okay,
Yeah,
every team.
every
he's played
team,
for.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
not when he was like 3 or 4 in T-ball.
No, when he was in T-ball, he just had a number, and then the sponsor was in the name of the bag.
Yeah.
Joe's Trucking, right?
Yeah, bail bonds. Chico's bail bonds. Chris, what movie is that?
I can't.
Chico's Bail Bonds was the sponsor of this Little League baseball team.
Oh, it had to have been. Are you talking about the newer version of the Bad News Bears?
Yeah,
It had
the
to
original.
be-
Bad News
the
Bears,
original.
yeah.
Do you remember
Okay,
that movie, right?
Yeah.
By the way,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen that movie, watch that movie.
It's excellent. Yeah.
Folks, listen, if you're just joining us or if you're joining us all along, know that you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. This is Faith and Sport. I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. I teach exercise science at a local university here just east of Charlotte called Wingate University. And once a week we come down here. Chris and I have fun. And on this day we have in studio Dave Acquaviva. He's my brother, and we're talking about participation in youth sport and his son, who's been involved as much as probably any kid in America over the last 6 or 7 years. And you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. You're also listening to Radio Maria. So either way, however you're listening, wherever you're listening, thank you for joining us today.
Yes,
is
and
that
if
a
you're
good-
hearing 2 Aquavivas in your
That's
ear,
right.
that's not
Yeah.
your ears playing tricks on you.
That's
That's
right.
actually 2 Aquavivas.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
Where
is here? I think I know the answer to this. Names on the back, baseball cards.
Yeah.
Is that positive, negative, or neutral?
Neutral. I don't really see anything wrong with either one of them. The thing is with sports, youth today in sports, I think another main thing is the discipline. And it sounds kind of harsh, but when we were kids, we played on a baseball team that had 16, 17 kids on it. We had one coach.
That's right.
We played on football teams that had 25, 30 kids. We had 2 coaches.
That's right.
Now they have 5, 6 coaches for 12 kids, right?
right.
So that's one of the main things is back in the day, coaches were, really in charge and basically said, here's what's going to happen. And you just did it or you just didn't play. So,
Yeah, more. And now it's more of a democracy. And then it was
it was a dictatorship.
Yeah, I didn't want to use that word. I did not want to use that word. I couldn't think of anything else. But no, it's true, right?
It's very true.
Whatever they said
Whatever
was the
they
deal.
said, you just did it.
Yeah.
And I've literally had kids look at me and say, why should I listen to you?
Because you're not the head coach.
No, I'm not anybody. One kid looked at me and goes, you're not my dad.
Yeah, because you're not you're not a point of elevation. Like you haven't been named by the commissioner or the league as the
Right.
official coach.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
just,
it's all voluntary.
It's
right?
we're all volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody's getting paid.
So here's what I would argue. One of the reasons why kids are better today,
Okay.
and I mean this, I think you would agree with this.
Okay.
The overall talent level is like Levi's probably playing at 12 years old what I was at probably 15.
I would agree with
and
that.
I mean that.
No, I agree with that.
And there's other kids. I watch Division II baseball.
Yeah.
And today, and that's what I play, Division II baseball. And I look at them play at Wingate University, and I say to myself, and anybody who will ask, I don't think I would have made the team.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
agree
but
with
it's all
that.
relative, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
you and I both could have played on the 1919 Chicago
Chicago
Browns.
White Sox. Yeah, right.
no, who are the Browns called? The St. Louis Browns.
St. Louis Browns.
Yeah,
Yeah,
St. Louis Browns.
right.
We could have probably
I
played at
think
least
so.
the minor league
I think
system
so,
then.
yeah.
But of course, it's all relative,
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yeah.
And one of the reasons I think athletes are better today is they have so many more coaches.
Well, that could be that we do specify. I was a pitching coach for 3 years, which means that's all I did. I worked for just 3 or 4 of our players, and I never did anything else other than that. I didn't work with them in batting and fielding and nothing. When I got my pitchers, I worked with them one-on-one, and the results were astounding because within the last year, my 13U pitchers pitched 5 no-hitters, which I'm not sure if you went back in the day, you could ever find a record like that.
You have to look at Nolan Ryan.
You would have to, and we were 4 innings into a perfect game until the 5th inning. So to find records like that, I think you would have to, if they even would exist, you would have to go back a long way to find that. And it was specifically because of the amount of work I personally put into it, or other pitching coaches put into it, that made them that sharp and that focused.
Got it. So is referring to like when we played, when you played, what's the one thing, and we might have already gone over this, what's the one thing you wish was in place other than having your own baseball card that you like when you see Levi play, like do you
I
wish
wish I had that?
Yeah.
Well,
I wish I could have done this. I wish I had that. Whatever the case.
I think more games. I mean, literally, he's played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, and we played dozens.
That's right.
I mean, our season was what, 12 games long, 14 games.
I
long?
want to say at CYO, I'm pretty sure we were 10-0.
10,
yeah,
we were 10. That's right.
And that was it.
That was it.
And then the very next year, we had a championship for the first time, and we played 14 games.
Yeah, exactly right. And exactly. And when we played in indoor tournaments, we probably had 10 games. Just over a weekend or 2. And that was in April.
No, you're right. How do you not get better, right? That's really the question.
And
it's rhetorical. How do you not get better?
And that leads to what the point you had said, that the kids in AA ball now, or like you said, Division II, are so much better, and that's why they're playing so many more games now. They're getting so many more reps that by the time Levi hit a certain age, he's always played up, but by the time he hit a certain age, it was almost automatic. It's just, you're talking about muscle memory. It was it was just automatic.
Yeah, you're just so used to it.
So used to it, yeah. So
folks, we're talking with Dave Acquaviva. That last name should sound extremely familiar. And the amazing thing is he can spell our last name just as quickly as I can. Yeah. He's my brother. He's my next oldest brother. I'm one of 7, and Dave's number 4. I'm number 5. And he's joined us in studio. He lives just outside of Detroit, where we grew up. And we're talking about his experience in youth sports as a coach, but primarily as a parent. Dave, let's move on to this. So there's so many things to talk about here. And you and I talked off air about some specific things, but I want to know about what did Levi's coaches do, like either specific things or kind of things that they've done throughout the year that were good, that you just go, gosh, what a great experience this guy is bringing Levi and his teammates. Was it something that is it just his attitude? Is it something that he instills? Is it something that he does? Is it the practice? What's some of the specific things that they do?
I would have to say a lot of these and don't forget, these coaches are all volunteer, like I was.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I'm not a certified coach. I don't hold degrees in sports physiology or sports psychology. These are just my observations. But these men are all, for the most part, been very, very good to the kids, not specifically Levi, but the patience, I think, that they've shown with them. I mean, because you are talking about developing a youth into learning a certain sport. These are not the kind of kids that come to you in AAA, where they're refined, they should know certain things or throw certain. The patience that they just show the kids. I mean, it's a lot of patience to do that, to develop a kid and bring them up and say, okay, now here's the better way to do this, or let's throw like this, or let's get your batting stance a little, and they do it because they love the sport, and they particularly like kids. So, which is the reason why I coach too. So,
and I'll say this every week if I have to, and I'll say it every week we're on the air, especially if this topic comes up. Thank God for those volunteer coaches.
I agree, 100%.
Because think about, it'd be interesting if we could just click, this, what does Dad call this?
The interweb, the internets,
No, the internet machine.
Internet machine, right.
If we could click a button, and my guess is they could guess, but it'd be interesting to know the exact amount of little league sports, just say for kids from the time they're 5 into 15, that are all run by volunteer coaches.
It's unbelievable.
It would have to be tens of thousands.
Unbelievable.
In every sport. Yeah. And thank God that those people say yes to that.
I agree.
And I agree. It's a lot like the police. And I hate to bring in something but it's a lot like that. There's some bad apples in there for sure. And they've made some bad situations and bad parenting situations, bad kid situations. But I agree. We've been involved in enough to know that most of these people, mostly men, mostly fathers, are there for the betterment of their kid and betterment of those other players on their kids' team, and they overall make it a good, positive experience.
There's no question. Everybody has their ulterior motives, and one of them is, well, I have a kid on the team, so I'm going to coach. But if it was specifically just for that reason, I don't think they would be an effective coach because they would just be focused on their kid.
Right.
But they're not. They're focused on everybody. When I was the pitching coach for 13U, my son rarely pitched. I had to focus on the other kids that were going to be the starter and the middle relief and the closers. And he just came in as a relief if one of our starters got in trouble. So I rarely pitched him. So my focus was on the other pitcher. So if you don't have that in you to say, I don't want to just coach my kid, I have to be responsible for other kids, you probably shouldn't coach.
Yeah.
But most of these guys were just tremendous. Just
good
tremendous.
to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, on the other side of the fence, you mentioned just before we went on, there was probably just one coach that that Levi was coached by that you would consider was an overall negative experience.
He was. Yeah.
Why is that? What was, again, something specific that he did or didn't do?
Well, in Little League, you're only supposed to be allowed 2 coaches, and they do that for a reason, because then you as the head coach and your assistant coach can protect your kids during the draft. And you're not supposed to take on any other coaches for that reason, because if you had, like, say, 8 coaches, they would all pick their kids, but they'd all be protecting the draft. So what he did was he called a bunch of the parents of the players he wanted, the better players, and said, stay home on skills day, so that the other coaches couldn't see them play baseball.
And they couldn't assess them.
So during the draft, he goes, I'll take so-and-so. And they're like, well, he wasn't even here. I got a good feeling about this kid. I've heard
I like
good
his
things.
name.
Yeah, I like his name. And then the next round of the draft would come up, he goes, I picked so-and-so. Well, he's not here. I don't see his name. His name's not. I've heard good things. I got a good feeling about this kid. So he protected all these players by telling them to just stay. It was just very bad.
Okay, so this is kind of like what we talked about off air, in that there's a lot of the cheating that's done is outside of the rules. It's not written in there. So this sounds like an example.
This one was a blatant disregard for the rules, because you just cannot, you should not do that. But
there's no rule by the commissioner. There's no rule by the league that states you can't.
There's nothing in there that says you can't call the parents and tell them.
Exactly.
Tell them not to show up.
I know that. Boy, that's pretty egregious.
It was egregious. It was very
but
bad.
Let me ask that same coach, he wasn't necessarily a good coach?
No, he was absolutely horrible. His son played, and his son wasn't a very skilled player, so he was there specifically to make sure that his son played and started. And then, of course, by doing what he did, we went 15-0 in the season, which was the first time that's ever happened in the league we were playing in, and we won the championship, and his son got a little trophy.
This is so interesting. So, Chris, this is great, right? Because I asked Dave what was a negative experience he had, and the ultimate thing was they not only were decent, you guys were great.
Yeah,
but it was still a negative experience.
He actually called the local paper and said, I got a story for you. And it was in the paper. Coach so-and-so leads, Marysville to a championship season, 15-0.
People are the best, aren't they?
They're great. He was, he did some other things too, but I don't think we have time to get into it.
All right, folks, listen, you're listening to Faith in Sport. This is where we look at sports through a Catholic lens, and we talk about character, we talk about morality, and we talk about ethics. Either way, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us here on the show today, Carolina Catholic Radio. It's a co-production of Radio Maria. We're talking with Dave Acquaviva. He's my next oldest brother in our family, and he has a lot of experience in coaching, but especially in parenting his son Levi through so many sports, primarily baseball. So we're going to continue that conversation. We're going to go to weekend headlines in a minute, but Dave, before we do that, this is the shortest of all movie quotes. Right? All right. Have that removed.
I don't know. Have that removed.
He was in an officer's uniform. It was a comedy. Have that removed. No, John Larroquette said that.
No. I'm
Stripes.
Still not kidding. Stripes, yeah. Okay. A movie I haven't seen in about 35 years, so yeah.
I've been really impressed. Chris, do you know this movie?
Yeah.
Stripes, okay. That was a tough one, though. Have that removed. But do you remember that scene by chance?
No,
okay.
I don't remember.
Because he trips. He trips, and it's just a step. Right, it's just regular stuff. And he turns towards his little private crony, and he goes, "Have that removed." Only us three would laugh at that, right?
Well,
Everybody else
funny.
is like, move on.
Yeah, I remember.
Chris, let's get some music for headlines, buddy.
Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of sport, the thrill of victory, and the agony of defeat. the human drama of athletic competition.
It's time for Weekend Headlines with Dr. John Acquaviva on Faith and Sport.
So here we go in the Olympics. The U.S. leads the current medal count, 113 medals to second place China, who's not even at 90. They're at 88, but that's just at this writing. My guess is they're going to separate themselves even further because they have so many people that do sport climbing, surfing, and skateboarding, as we talked about earlier.
And speed walking before they
That's right, and
get
speed
rid of
walking.
it.
Yeah, America's probably pretty good at that, too.
Football. Yeah.
That's right, because we have more airports probably than anybody. And how do you think we're going to get? They're like, no running in the airport, but you can walk, and that's one of the reasons why we're so good. Other than what happened to Simone Biles, the gymnast, she opted out of the all-around competition due to mental stress. I'm not sure there's another story that really stood out. However, one thing to note is that the U.S. did not win a gold medal in track and field until the track and field events were a week underway. I thought that was really interesting. Wow. And the other thing, of course, was the women's soccer team. They won a bronze medal, and I think they're expected to win the gold medal. Major League Baseball, the San Francisco Giants continue to shock the baseball world by having the best record in either league, and they're leading the division where the LA Dodgers, last year's world champs, reside. But don't count out the Dodgers yet. They recently acquired two-time Cy Young Award winner Max Scherzer.
And don't count out the Braves. Go Braves.
No, I'm not going to count out those Braves, brother. In the PGA, Mexican Abraham Ancer won the FedEx St. Jude Invitational over the weekend. Next up is the Wyndham Championship in Greensboro, Chris, North Carolina. So right down the road here. And say football, lastly, the college football season, amazingly, is just a couple weeks away.
That's right.
That's amazing to think of, especially since it just seems like a couple minutes ago that Alabama won yet another national title. It just seems like a couple weeks ago. Anyway, the first games are slated for August 28th, where all teams will play by the first week of September. So there you have it, folks. Sports news that may or may not change your life. Listen, folks, we're going to go to a break here on Faith and Sport in just a minute. After the break, we're going to continue our conversation with Dave Acquaviva. Some of the topics we're going to talk about, I think you're going to find this interesting. How have coaches specifically cheated? We're going to talk about specifics there. And how has Dave handled some bad coaches, some bad umpiring decisions, some bad coaches' decisions? And I think you folks, the listener, will be able to take that on as when you're parenting your kids, if not already. And also, we're going to talk about, should coaches be certified? All that and more here on Faith and Sports. So stay where you are, folks. We'll be right back.
Nice.
You are listening to Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network, CarolinaCatholicRadio.org, and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. You're also listening on Radio Maria. Glad to have all of you tuned in for today's edition of Faith and Sport. And we've got more Faith and Sport coming up right after the break with the Acquaviva brothers. So stay tuned for more Faith and Sport today. Also, if you get a chance, go to CarolinaCatholicRadio.org or on the app and click the donate button to help keep Carolina Catholic Radio on the air.
If you own or manage a business, you can underwrite some of our great local programs as a Carolina Catholic Radio business sponsor. For more information, contact us through our website at CarolinaCatholicRadio.org.
Carolina Catholic News. Do you get discouraged by the disappearance of God from our society? If so, there is hope. Return to God is an organization founded last year by a group of Catholic men in Huntersville. They hold public prayer events that are open to everyone. They meet at public parks and peacefully pray together and praise God. The general response has been extremely positive. For those who are interested in this uplifting experience, can join the Return to God Apostolate Prayer event on August 14th at 1 p.m. The meeting is at Veterans Park in Huntersville, east of I-77, exit 23. To learn more, check the website at returntogodnow.com. For Carolina Catholic News, I'm Pam Cullen. God bless y'all.
Teachers that care, professors that care about you. Just an awesome experience all around.
There's peace here. There's encouragement here.
Faculty, everybody that works here, they really set you up for success.
I don't think I have ever felt as loved and as supported and as encouraged as I have at the Abbey.
There's something here that's underlying and intrinsic. There's like a spirit of love and community. And I think the spirit is God's presence here.
Belmont Abbey College, a world away, but close to home. Visit us at belmontabbeycollege.edu.
The Carolina Catholic Radio Network, a proud affiliate of EWTN Radio, has now been on the air, on the internet, and on your smartphone for 2.5 years, with many wonderful local programs to educate, inform, and inspire you on your journey of faith. With the negative impact of secular media in our culture, the positive impact of our Carolina Catholic apostolate is needed now more than ever to evangelize the truth of Jesus Christ and our Catholic faith to guide us in daily life. Carolina Catholic has many awesome plans for you across our 6 platforms this fall. In the weeks ahead, we will begin to share our plans as we secure your financial support to make them a reality. Please consider a one-time donation or monthly tithe today. Just go to the Donate tab on carolinacatholicradio.org. Thank you for your prayerful consideration to join us in our mission to evangelize across the Carolinas. May God bless you abundantly.
It's time for more Faith and Sport on the Carolina Catholic Radio Network. You're listening on carolinacatholicradio.org or on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. Also, we're streaming across Radio Maria. So glad to have all of our Radio Maria listeners tuned in as well for this all-new edition of Faith and Sport. Now, once again, here he is, the host of Faith and Sports, the one, the only, the incomparable, Dr. John Acquaviva.
You know, I was going to say, if you, Chris, it did say Dr. John Acquaviva.
Yeah, he did.
Dave, I know, but if he was just said John Acquaviva, you can't say the one and only, because there's a guy that's from the Detroit area.
That's true.
His name is John Acquaviva.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's a techno DJ, and he's worth like $8 million because he plays. I don't even know what techno DJing is, but
Yeah, too bad you're not that John Acquaviva.
I know. Well, no, I'm good with the John Acquaviva that's here, but yeah, I'm happy for that guy. Folks, you're listening to Carolina Catholic Radio. Did you mention Radio Maria?
Yes,
I'm just
I did.
teasing. I know I heard you mention it that time. Folks, this is Faith in Sport, where we look at sport through a Catholic lens. In particular, we try to weave in character, ethics, and morality into our conversation as it relates to sports. So thank you for joining us today here on Carolina Catholic Radio and Radio Maria. And we are talking, as Chris mentioned, with Dave Acquaviva. He's my next oldest brother. He's visiting us on vacation. We're so appreciative that you guys flew down here. You, your wife Cindy, my sister-in-law, and then my nephew, your son Levi. And he's been involved in a lot of sports since he was a little tyke.
Yes.
Literally just a couple years after he learned how to walk, he was involved in baseball.
Yes.
So you have a lot of experience, a little bit in coaching, but a lot as a parent. So let's talk about this. What are some examples of when a coach makes a bad decision and how you've reacted, either internally or outwardly?
Yeah, well, you know, I was an assistant coach for most of the years that Levi's been playing, and there's sometimes when, you know, you want to question the head coach, but it's not always necessarily prudent to do so because, you know, it could cause some internal issues. So for the most part, you kind of just leave that alone. Bad decision-making is just part of the game.
Yeah.
It is just, I mean, if you look at some of the top 10 rated managers ever in baseball, you know, Connie Mack and Tony only little rooster,
Sparky.
Sparky Anderson. They're barely above 500.
Right.
They make bad decisions all the time. I mean, should I have kept that pitcher in? Should I have pulled him? Should I have played the guy a little more left of center? It happens all the time. So there really isn't much you can do. You're really second guessing somebody. You're kind of undermining their authority if you do that, and you're just playing an armchair quarterback. And none of those are good virtues.
Right.
So yeah.
And so this is simply stated and truthfully stated. As a parent, we need to sit on our hands often.
I mean, there have been, we've had a lot of problems, issues with parents, and most of them are criticizing either the umpire or the coaches or both. And you know what? Just enjoy the game. Just have fun. Enjoy the game.
Now, about the umpires, if you had to tally, like say over a period of a weekend or maybe even of a month, are they more critical of the umpires or are they more critical of the coaches?
Oh, the umpires by far. By far.
And tell everybody who, in general, those umpires are. They're children.
A lot of them are just high school kids.
Yeah.
That barely know the sport, that are there to make their $40 a game. They're not there to. But, there has to be a point of authority. Somebody has to be in charge. And these kids need to learn, and that's fine. But a lot of these are not professional paid umpires at all. They're just.
And they're not adults, a lot.
A lot of them aren't even adults yet. No.
One out of every how many is an actual adult, like say over the age of 25?
Oh, I would say probably at least half. I mean,
is that right?
Oh, yeah. You got
so literally you could have like a 40-year-old guy one game, and the very next game you could have a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah. So but most of the tournaments you go to that you pay, they pay umpires, but Little League. Boy, anybody can show up. Yeah,
but they all get paid though.
They do get. They do.
Where the coaches are voluntary. I would say even at the lowest level, even if it's t-ball,
they get paid.
Make $8 an hour. Or
they
something.
pay. Yeah, they do get paid. Yeah.
So, do you? This is something we did not talk about.
Okay.
But I think it's a softball question. It'll be interesting. You may not know about it. There is we talked about this on the show before. Chris might remember this conversation. There is a website called Offside, and it was started by a youth soccer official, referee. He got so tired of people berating him, people insulting him, people just whatevering him that was negative. And so he started this website called Offside where people send in videos of parents behaving badly during a sporting event. Yeah. And the whole purpose is on this website is to shame parents into better behavior.
Yeah. I personally think it's working. I mean, we haven't experienced that much of it. There has been a few times where the cops are called. That's no joke.
Do people behave better, you think, as parents because people have cell phones?
I think so, yeah. Because
Isn't that terrible?
You can always start filming people. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
but I guess it's like anything, right? People are going to go the speed limit if there's a cop by the side of the road.
Exactly.
It's just human nature to do that.
It is. Now, I thought you were going to tell me that the guy was going to start showing either film or photos of offside plays because our parents do that all the time. No joke. They'll go up to the umpire and go, "Look, I took a picture. That kid was safe by a mile."
That's not true.
It's true. 100% true.
Okay, so they'll take a picture of the play at first base, for instance, and the umpire called him out, but the photo shows that he's safe.
Yep.
They will call him to the side of the field?
Usually after the game, or at least let the other parents or the coaches know, go, "Look, he was safe by a mile."
How negative is that on a scale from 1 to 10? That can do no good.
No good. No, not at all. No, but it is funny sometimes.
I know those poor umpires. Holy smokes!
They take a lot. Yeah, they do. Yeah. They're tough. Yeah.
And I know you would agree with this. One of the true blessings. You had Levi later in age. I had my 5 kids later in age, and you have a better perspective.
Absolutely.
Think about if you would have had Levi when you're 25.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd be on Offside. You'd be on that website.
I might have been.
They would know your first name and last name. They're like, there's that Dave Acquaviva again, jumping over that fence to run after that official.
Yeah.
No, it's true, right?
It is
both
true.
As a coach,
absolutely,
as how you treat you just have perspective, and you look at that, you're like, he's a child referee, and thank God he's here, because if he's not here, there's probably nobody here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and you need those guys.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of these situations where parents are asked? In fact, they're either asked or I think it's mandatory that they umpire or referee one game during their kids' Little League season. And of course, the reason is they want to humble them and show just how hard it is. But you and I talked off air.
Yeah.
Why is this problematic?
Well, for one thing, a lot of them don't know the rules.
It could be a mess.
That's
It
a
could be a
total
mess.
train wreck.
And it would be unfair to everybody there. Right?
Absolutely.
That's the whole thing.
I don't see the value of that whatsoever, because what you're trying to do is teach them a lesson. It's like, okay, here's how bad umpires have it, the refs have it. You know what's a better idea? They did this. They did this where my son played baseball. Every parent who has a kid on the team or involved in this has to volunteer for the concession stand. Just let them do that, right? Anybody can go, the one that's a Coke, it's $1, right? There's no disputing anything there. You don't have to know any rules. So, I thought it was actually...
I was overcharged on that hot dog. What's going on here?
Exactly. So Dave, the reason that's so great is that if you are a bad parent and you either heckle or are negative toward the umpires...
Keeps you off the field.
You can't see it. In fact, what they should do is make the concession stand so
you can't
where
see.
they come up there, it's the opposite way. Oh, that is great.
They did. They asked every parent to volunteer, I think, 4 hours out of the season, which is either one long time at the concession stand or 2 shorter times or whatever. Yeah, which I thought that was brilliant. I thought that's way better than forcing them to ump or, so.
Yeah, no, I agree that even though it's one of those things that you hear and you could easily go, that's a great idea.
It is not.
It's an awful idea.
Terrible idea. Train wreck.
Yeah, because they don't know the rules. And even if they did know the rules, it's kind of like teaching. I think like with teaching or with painting or whatever you do for a living, you could have done it before, but it doesn't
make you good at it. No, everybody's painted, but they're not as good as me.
Yeah, Chris, if you need a wall painted, Dave's your guy.
I'm the guy.
Next time he comes down. All right, so we talked about that, and along those lines, parents are often, or coaches are often certified in one sport, and that's soccer.
Yeah, soccer.
Levi played soccer.
I had to be certified, yes.
And what was the positive things about going through that certification process?
I didn't really see a whole lot of value to it because so much of it didn't have to do with the sport.
For instance?
They asked you to recognize if you think somebody's being bullied, if you think somebody's malnourished, if you think how to handle the transgender thing. Somebody walks into a bathroom and it's clearly, there were so many things that had nothing to do with soccer.
Interesting.
At all. The rules or the regulations, the only thing that was in there
you could learn that on your own.
You could learn that on your own.
Yeah.
So the rest of it was, why do I need to know this? I mean, that sounds like something that the parents should be dealing with or teachers should be doing, not the soccer coach. Because the soccer coach is like, hey, kid, see that ball? It goes in the net. That's really, the basics of teaching soccer, not he looks a little malnourished or
dehydrated.
Dehydrated. Or the only thing that I thought was any value was recognizing concussions.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was really it. But the certification I thought was really long and really tedious.
So you would necessarily think that's a good idea, say, for softball coaches or baseball or for football, any sport?
The only value I could see to it is if you have a really bad coach that's getting a lot of complaints, they could take away his certification. You can't coach again. That's the only value of it I see whatsoever.
But that's a pretty good value.
It is very good.
Because then you have something, like you can't just say you got to get out of there.
Right.
One of the rules stated by the league says you have to be in good standing with the league to be able to coach this league.
Yeah, first infraction's a verbal warning. Second is you have to miss a game or a week of coaching. Third is you're gone and you can't coach for a year or 2 years or whatever.
Yeah.
Having that would, I think, help curb a lot of the bad behavior that some of these coaches pull, or actually get people to not even do it because, they may recognize, I don't think I can deal with this. So, I would think if you could pull that from somebody and tell them you can't coach anymore, it might not be a bad idea. Yeah.
Folks, we're listening to Dave Acquaviva. He's my special in-studio guest. He has a lot of experience as a parent and some as a coach. And he is my next oldest brother, and he's visiting us from the Detroit area, and that's why I asked him to come in studio and talk about all this. As you can hear, he's got a lot of great things to say. So, folks, thank you for joining us today on Carolina Catholic Radio. It's a co-production of Radio Maria and Faith and Sport. This is where we merge sport and virtue. Now, folks, if you know of a guest, if you know somebody that's a good coach, you know somebody that's a good administrator, even a referee or an umpire, somebody that would be good to be on this show, contact me, please. I mentioned this earlier. If you didn't get it the first time, you can tweet me at j.acquaviva1. That's the number 1, j.acquaviva1. That's my Twitter account. Or you can email me at john@faithandsportradio.com. So, Dave, let's
Yes.
continue this conversation.
All right.
About all this experience that you've gained, especially on coaches and just dealing with other parents and so
Yes.
forth. But one of my favorite topics that you and I have talked about,
Yes.
like phone calls and so forth, and when we see each other, is how coaches blatantly cheat.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
maybe this could help our listeners who are parents or maybe even coaches, so they can recognize this in other coaches. But as I'm even to warm this up, there's a lot of times it's outside of the rules, so there's nothing you can do.
Nothing you can do about it. Yeah.
Let it go. So
Oof,
talk about
let it go. The let it go story. Yeah.
By the way, this has nothing to do with Frozen. Chris, you don't have to. I know people are like, cool, they're going to talk about my favorite movie.
No,
it has nothing to do with that.
We played against this one certain team and against this one certain coach a lot because we were both two of the better teams in our area, and we met them all the time in playoffs. And they had this one coach who had this loud, gravelly voice, and he'd talk like this.
Sure.
And whenever, I'm not joking, he was like Clint Eastwood over on third base, right? So what he would do is when
make it to first base, punk.
Yeah, I need you to make it to first, punk. So what he would do is when we were in the field and his kids were at bat, he's third base coach. So their kid would hit a ball and he would go, "Let it go!" He'd go, "Let it go! Let it go! Let it go!" And the kids, sometimes being 7 and 8, get confused, so they would just let the ball go. Fair ball, fair ball. Yeah. And then he'd go, "Let's go, let's go!" So first time I heard him do it, I turned to the other coach and go, "Did you hear what he just said?" And they're like, "Yeah, he's cheering on his team. He's saying, 'Let's go.'" And I'm like, No.
The replay shows.
Listen, yeah, like I got that on my cell phone. And he did it all the time. But is that against the rules?
No.
No, it's not. No. But the worst, I think the most egregious bending of the rules is the time thing.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of your listeners.
So explain the time thing. Okay. So it's not an inning thing always.
No.
But you can go innings, but most of the time
can.
it's a time thing rather than an innings.
All games are scheduled for 6 innings, but they never make it.
That's right.
Yeah,
so
because
a typical game is how long?
Anywhere
from
hour and 15 to hour and 40. Some of them, if there's less teams out there, let them play hour 45. So there's two ways to do it. If there's some time left on the clock, no matter how much time, there's 3 seconds left when the inning ends, you could still pick up the next inning, or there's drop time.
That's right.
Which means when the game's done, you could have the bases loaded and no
That's right. 3-0 count, whatever.
Done.
Yeah, it's done.
It's drop time. It's done.
And each league is independent.
Every
of
tournament is different because they have to post the tournament rules right on the backstop.
So everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
What do they call it again? Drop
time.
Got it.
Yeah. So we were playing in a game, and this is very common. This happened all the time. We were playing in a game. We're down 2-1. Their pitcher had been mowing us down pretty good. Obviously, we only scored 1 run in 4 innings. Right. 5th inning starts. We're getting near the end of the game. Right.
Sure.
We're getting near drop time. Coach comes out after the first pitch. Blue, need to make a pitching change. My coach looks at the dugout and he goes, "Are you serious?"
Of course he's serious.
So the kid who he calls in is in left field. Way in left field. I mean, standing at the fence in left field.
He told him to go out to the parking lot. "Hey, kids, see
Pretty
that Dairy
much.
Queen out there? Go a little beyond the Dairy Queen and I'll call you in."
Well, as long as he's in bounds, they can bring him.
Oh, is that right? So there's rules about that.
There's rules about that. He walked as slow as he could from left field all the way to the pitcher's mound, walked around.
Chris, you laugh. I bet it wasn't funny.
It was not funny at the time because
yeah.
we're all looking at the clock. Well, this kid's it took 2 minutes to get from left field to the pitcher's mound. And then they're allowed 8 warm-up pitches, and he's walking around. Doesn't say it has to be done in a specific amount of time. So that coach specifically said, "Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen, guys." At the end of the game, my coach looks at him and he goes, "Are you serious?" And he just went, "It's in the rules.
It's in the rules. Yeah, you can do
this.
this.
You can do it." And so we lost. We had drop time hit. Boom, game over. Nothing we can do about it.
And if we had more time, if we had another hour, you could literally fill that hour with just how many times people
hundreds of
how
stories
they cheat.
about it. Yes, hundreds
now,
of stories.
You know
yes.
how one of the rules that changed in Major League Baseball I thought was great was that you have to throw to at least 3 batters now.
Yeah.
Remember, it used to be 1 pitch.
One pitch. Yeah.
So. What's the rule in Little League? So he pitched to one. He made one pitch. So the next guy could pitch. No, that's not true. He could pitch 1 pitch, and then he could do the same thing. He called the kid from left field again.
Yeah, they wanted to.
You guys lost that game. I
lost it 2-1. Yeah, and they do it all the time. They will literally come out and go, "Come on, Blue, that was a strike. No, come on, that was a strike." And you're like, dude, as soon as they get the lead,
even though he knew it was a ball.
As soon as they get the lead, that same coach, the guy who said "let it go."
Yeah.
I once saw him argue. I am not kidding. A balk for 45 minutes.
That's not true.
He just.
Dave, you're on Carolina Catholic Radio.
I'm not supposed to lie. I know. I get it. Nope. They had to call over the lead umpire. The lead umpire eventually called over the tournament director, and it just that's all he kept going. Now everybody knows here what a balk is. Come on, you guys, you know that was a balk. And they're just going on and on and on. Well, he had the lead, and he just wants to just run out the time.
All right, so let me ask you this. So when there's this drop time and it's a close game and so forth, what percentage of people blatantly, in your mind, have cheated over the years in doing this?
I'd say a lot, because they will not only argue calls, but they'll do.
But your teams have never done this.
I am not kidding you. I've
we
never
have a
had
Bible
a coach.
around here somewhere.
All right,
Chris, we have a Bible.
I've never, any of our coaches, even the ones that
so
I
it
didn't
can't
care
be that
for.
common that if all the teams that you've been involved on, it's just common enough to talk about it.
It's happened enough to talk about it. It happens all the time.
It's got to be infuriating.
Oh, infuriating, because they know what they're doing. We know what they're doing. And everybody knows what they're doing, but there's no rule against it.
And have you ever heard the umpire? And of course, the umpire can be, if he's 15 years old, can be easily intimidated against Clint Eastwood.
They have done that. I've seen them literally just intimidate umpires into making calls.
I'd like to have that play.
All right. Speaking of actors and so forth, it's time for Name That Movie.
All right, sir.
All right.
All right, here we go. I hope it's a Clint Eastwood movie.
I have a pond and I have a pool. You would swim in the pond.
Ah, you kidding? That's a softball. Are you kidding? Caddyshack.
Do you remember?
A pool,
pond.
Chris,
Chris, who are the two guys in the scene? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember.
It'd be Chevy Chase and Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
And Chevy Chase tells Bill Murray, he goes, I have a pond, because he goes, I want to come over and go swimming.
Yeah.
And he says that.
And he does. You're over on Briar Street. He goes, 2. That's his address.
And he goes, I have a pond and I have a swimming pool. He goes, you could swim in the
pool. Pond would be good for you.
Yeah, that pond would be good
and he's
for
like,
you.
And Bill Murray's like, well, pool, pond, whatever,
There we go, folks. So, Chris, listen, brother, listen, we're going to say goodbye here in a second, but that was a great conversation.
Thank you.
That was really good stuff.
Thank you.
So, Chris, we're going to move on to quick Q&A with Dr. A. I'll just give a minute to that, and then we'll shut down the show. So shoot it at me.
Okay. What's your personal highlight of the Olympics so far?
All right, so we mentioned the Olympics a couple times. It's clearly the theme. It's a big thing going on the last couple of weeks in the world of sport.
Right.
And as I mentioned, unlike Dave, my brother, I've watched some of the Olympics, and I've watched probably more than anything the track and field. But it took them 1 week when the track and field competition started for them to win a gold medal. And when they won it, it was the 4x400 for the women. And I said to Alicia, they're going to kill them, because we have literally, when the 400 meters individual, the women Americans came in 1 and 2. So if you're going to do a relay of 4 people, they're probably going to win that, right? So, but they had interviewed and profiled each of these women, and I thought they were great. They just seemed like good, solid women to me. They were funny. They're quick to smile. And that was the one thing, that was the highlight. And you should have seen how much they won by. Chris, remember we were talking earlier that there was some competition between the men and the women, and how much the men beat the women by? That's how much the Americans won by. I'm not exaggerating. Wow. It was something like 60 yards. Think about that in a 4x400, 60 yards. Like the girl crossed the finish line, and then the camera was on the finish line, and you thought it was a stop tape because nobody was coming across the finish line. And then finally, like, Jamaica came across the finish line, and like, we came in second. But by that time, the Americans were cooled down, and I think they were giving interviews at that point. So that was the highlight. I thought that was great. Listen, folks, as we conclude, as always, I give this comment from a pope on sport, and this is what John Paul II said. Give thanks to God for the gift of sport, in which the human person exercises his body, intellect, and will, recognizing these abilities as so many gifts of his creator. I want to give special thanks to Dave Acquaviva.
Yeah.
Was this great?
Yes, it was fantastic.
So
Absolutely loved it.
I want you to come down again.
I can do that.
Yeah. And
absolutely.
then just for this show.
Absolutely.
Maybe you can fly down every Monday.
It would be fun. I would love to be here every Monday. It would be. Thank you. I would love to. I got millions more stories.
Once we start Chris Pressler Airlines, and Chris will fly Dave down for free.
Or how about FS Airlines?
FS. There you go.
Faith and Sport Airlines. There you go. Mm-hmm. So thank you, brother. This
Absolutely.
was great.
Thank you.
I thought
Thanks for having me.
We both knew this would be the quickest hour in radio.
Yeah, it was fast.
And it was just that quick.
It's fun.
Yeah.
So thank you, Dave
Absolutely.
Acquaviva. Listen, I'm Dr. John Acquaviva. Please join us next time here on Carolina Catholic Radio and Radio Maria for more Faith and Sport.
Well, we hope you enjoyed Faith and Sport today with the Acquaviva brothers. We want to thank you for tuning in to Faith and Sport on Carolina Catholic Radio, on carolinacatholicradio.org, and on the Carolina Catholic Radio app. And remember, next time you visit the Carolina Catholic Radio app or carolinacatholicradio.org, make sure you hit that Donate Now button to help us to donate and help us keep Carolina Catholic Radio on the air. We also want to thank our Radio Maria listeners for tuning in on the Radio Maria network, and we want to invite you to tune in for more Faith and Sport next week.